You've seen it before. A missile launches, it arcs perfectly through the sky, and then somehow it finds a target hundreds of kilometers away in the dark. Now imagine that suddenly stops. No tracking, no guidance, no eyes in the sky, just silence. Because modern warfare runs on something most people never see: radar. Not guns, not tanks, not even jets. Radar is what makes everything else work. And when radar disappears, the entire battlefield starts to unravel. Imagine you're a pilot, 9,000 meters up, flying an F-16 at 1,500 km/h. Normally, your radar shows everything: enemy aircraft, terrain, incoming threats. Now, it's gone. Just clouds and guesswork. That's not combat anymore. That's survival. Here's the part most people miss. Modern warfare isn't about who has the biggest weapons. It's about who can see first, who can detect, track, lock, strike. Take that away, and even the most advanced military on Earth starts fighting like it's 1943. Blind, Part 3. Before radar and after. And that's not an exaggeration. During World War II, before advanced radar networks, anti-aircraft crews would literally fire into the sky hoping to hit something. No lock, no precision, just probability. Sometimes it worked. Most of the time, it didn't. Fast forward to today. A system like the Patriot missile battery, introduced in the 1980s, upgraded constantly, can track over 100 targets simultaneously and intercept incoming missiles traveling at Mach 5. That's 5 times the speed of sound. And it does that because of radar. No radar? It's just an expensive metal box. In Ukraine, 2022, small drone units, some costing under $20,000, were able to locate and destroy armored vehicles worth $3 million each. Why? Because they could see. They had situational awareness, meaning they knew exactly where the enemy was in real time. Now flip that. Take away radar. Take away detection. And suddenly, those same units are flying blind. Targets vanish. Opportunities disappear. Let me tell you about Andriy, 34 years old, former IT technician from Kharkiv. In March 2022, he became a drone operator. Not because he wanted to, because he had to. His job was simple: find Russian armor before it found them. One night, his unit lost radar support. Electronic interference, heavy jamming. Within minutes, everything changed. Drones stopped transmitting clean video. Coordinates became unreliable. Targets disappeared. He said it felt like someone turned off the lights in the middle of a knife fight. That's exactly what happens. Because here's the twist. In modern war, radar doesn't just fail, it gets attacked. There's an entire category of weapons called electronic warfare. Not bullets, not bombs, signals. These systems, like Russia's Krasuka 4, introduced around 2014, can jam radar and disrupt satellite communications, and even confuse incoming missiles. It's like hacking reality itself. When radar gets jammed, it doesn't just go dark, it lies. It shows false targets, phantom aircraft, ghost missiles. Imagine trying to fight when you can't trust your own eyes. That's the battlefield without radar. Now let's break this down, because radar isn't just one thing. It's a network, a system of systems. And when it fails, different parts of the military collapse in very different ways. Start with air combat. Modern fighter jets like the F-35 Lightning II, costing about $80 million per unit, rely heavily on radar. For beyond visual range combat, that means engaging enemies from over 100 kilometers away. You don't see them. You detect them electronically. Lock, fire, done. Without radar, you're back to dogfighting, close range, visual contact, split-second reactions. It becomes chaotic and dangerous. Now move to the ocean. A modern destroyer like the Arleigh Burke class used by the US Navy carries the Aegis combat system. This thing can track hundreds of targets at once. Aircraft, missiles, even ballistic threats. But here's the catch. It's all radar. Without radar, that ship becomes vulnerable. Anti-ship missiles like the Russian P-800 Onyx traveling at Mach 2.5 can hit from over 300 kilometers away. That's less than 10 minutes of warning. Without radar, you don't even know it's coming. No reaction time, no defense, just impact. And it happens fast, too fast. Now let's talk air defense. Systems like the ACE-400 Triumph, Russia's flagship air defense platform introduced in 2007, are designed to create a protective bubble up to 400 kilometers wide. Take away radar, and that bubble collapses instantly. No tracking, no targeting, no interception. It's like giving a sniper a rifle and taking away their scope. Sure, they still have the weapon, but good luck hitting anything. Now zoom out. Higher. Space. Satellites. Modern radar isn't just ground-based. There are space-based sensors, early warning systems that detect missile launches using infrared and radar tracking. The US space-based infrared system can detect a ballistic missile launch within seconds. That's your warning. That's your time to react. Without that, you don't see the launch. You only see the explosion. If you're lucky, command and control, this is where everything connects. Generals don't fight wars with rifles. They fight with information. Live feeds, radar data, satellite imagery. Take that away and decision-making collapses. Orders become delayed. Units become isolated. Mistakes multiply. Friendly fire increases. Coordination disappears. Chaos spreads fast. And here's the irony. The more advanced your military is, the more dependent you are on radar, which means the more vulnerable you become when it's gone. Meanwhile, less advanced forces, they adapt faster. They're already used to operating without high-tech systems. Binoculars. Human scouts. Simpler tactics. It's not efficient, but it works. Sometimes better. Part 11. Losing more than machines. Back to Andriy. That night without radar support, his unit lost 3 drones in under 20 minutes. Not shot down, just lost. Signal interference. Navigation failure. Gone. Each one carried cameras, sensors, sometimes explosives, all useless without coordination. He said something interesting later. We didn't lose the drones. We lost the ability to use them. That's the difference. And that's just the beginning, because what we've covered so far, air, sea, ground, space, command, these are just the obvious systems, the visible ones. But the next layer, the one most people never think about, that's where things get really dangerous. Because when radar disappears, it's not just about blindness. It's about deception, manipulation, control. And the next category of systems, they don't just fail when radar goes down. They turn against you. Stay with me, because this is where it gets unsettling. Part 1. Radar lies. Now imagine this. Your radar isn't just gone. It's lying to you. Targets appear where nothing exists. Aircraft that aren't there. Missiles that never launched. You react anyway. You fire. And just like that, You've wasted a $3 million interceptor on empty air. It happens more often than you think. Part 2. Electronic warfare takes over. This is where electronic warfare becomes the main character, not the background. Systems like Russia's Krasuka-4 or the US ANSLQ-32 don't destroy radar physically, they corrupt it. They flood the air with signals, noise, false echoes. It's like screaming in someone's ear while they're trying to listen for footsteps in the dark. Eventually, they hear everything, which means they understand nothing. Part 3. Decision under uncertainty. And here's the terrifying part. Operators know this is happening. They know the data might be fake, but they still have to act because waiting could mean death. So they gamble. Every decision becomes a bet, and the odds not great. Part 4. Missiles without eyes. Let's go back to the air. Modern missiles like the AIM-120 AMRAAM, introduced in the early 1990s, use radar guidance to hit targets beyond visual range. Range about 160 kilometers depending on the variant. Speed, roughly Mach 4. Cost, around $1 million per missile. Without radar, that missile is blind. Part 5. When missiles fail, it either misses or worse, it locks onto the wrong target. Friendly aircraft, civilian aircraft, or nothing at all. This isn't theoretical. During conflicts with heavy electronic interference, pilots have reported missiles losing lock mid-flight, just drifting, useless. Part 6. Back to visual combat. So what happens? Combat collapses back into visual range. You see the enemy. They see you. No warning, no distance, just instinct and skill. Part 7. Captain Elena's Choice. Let me introduce you to Captain Elena Markovich. Fictional name, real scenario. Eastern Europe, 2023. Her radar went dark mid-mission. Heavy jamming. She had seconds to decide. Return to base or continue blind. She chose to continue. Why? Because turning back meant leaving ground troops exposed. Part 8. Fighting with eyes alone. Minutes later, she visually spotted an enemy aircraft. No lock, no radar, just eyes. She maneuvered manually, got within 2 kilometers, and fired an infrared-guided missile. One that tracks heat, not radar. It hit. Barely. She survived. But she said later, it felt like going from chess to street fighting. That's the shift. Part 9. Systems that still work. Because not all systems die when radar dies. Some adapt. Infrared-guided weapons like the AIM-9 Sidewinder don't rely on radar. They track heat, engine exhaust, friction. They're older, simpler, shorter range, usually under 30 kilometers. But in a radar-denied world, they become essential. Part 10. Last line of defense at sea. At sea, the same principle applies. Ships start relying on visual spotting, infrared sensors, and last-ditch defenses. Close-in weapon systems like the Phalanx CIWS kick-in, a 20mm Gatling gun that fires 4,500 rounds per minute. Its job? Shoot down incoming missiles in the final seconds. Part 11. Desperation mode. That's not ideal. That's desperation. Because by the time you're using that system, the missile is already seconds away. No margin. No second chance. Part 12. Ground war without coordination. On land, things get even messier. Without radar and reliable communication, units lose coordination. Artillery becomes less accurate. Drone strikes become inconsistent. Infantry units rely on line of sight. Human scouts, old school tactics. Part 13, Sergeant Min's reality. And this is where someone like Sergeant Min would come in. Let's say he's leading a small reconnaissance team, urban environment, no drone feed, no radar, no GPS because that's often jammed too. He has to physically move, peek corners, listen for movement. Every step is risk. Every decision is manual. Part 14, time becomes the enemy. Progress slows down a lot. What used to take minutes now takes hours, sometimes days. And in war, time is everything. Lose time, you lose initiative. Part 15, the economic problem. Now zoom out again, because something deeper is happening here. Something most people don't notice at first. Let's talk money. A modern main battle tank like the Leopard 2A6 costs around $10 million. A cheap drone? $500 to $20,000. That's a 500x difference. Now add radar into the equation. Part 16, cost imbalance. Air defense systems fire interceptors costing $1.3 million each to stop drones that cost less than a used motorcycle. You see the problem? Part 17, swarm problem. Now remove radar. You can't track the swarm. You can't prioritize targets. You can't respond efficiently. So what happens? You either waste expensive missiles blindly, or you let cheap threats get through. Either way, you lose. Part 18, the real shift. And this leads us to the moment most people miss. The real shift, the real pattern. Modern warfare isn't about having the best weapons. It's about having the best information, and radar is the backbone of that information. Remove it, and the entire cost structure of war collapses. Part 19, power flip. Cheap systems suddenly dominate. Expensive systems become liabilities. The advantage flips completely. Part 20, protecting radar. That's why major militaries invest billions into protecting radar. Redundancy. Backup systems. Mobile radar units. Low-frequency radars that are harder to jam. Passive sensors that don't emit signals, meaning they can't be easily targeted. Because they know if radar goes down, everything else follows. Part 21. Network warfare. They're also building networks. Not one radar, hundreds. Distributed systems. So if one fails, others compensate. It's like the internet. You don't take it down by cutting one cable. You need to cut everything. Part 22, the next threat. But here's the problem. Electronic warfare is evolving just as fast. Smarter jamming, AI-generated false targets, cyber attacks that don't just disrupt hardware, they rewrite software, meaning your radar might still be working, but it's been turned against you. Part 23, worse than blind. And when that happens, you're not just blind, you're misled, and in war, that's worse. Part 24, adapting to survive. Let's go back one last time to Andriy. Weeks after that night, his unit adapted. They started flying drones lower, shorter range, manual navigation, less reliance on centralized systems. It worked, not as efficient, not as powerful, but survivable. Part 25, the trade-off. He said something that stuck. Technology makes you strong, but it also makes you dependent. And that's the trade-off. Part 26, final reality. So what happens when radar stops working in war? Air combat becomes chaotic. Naval defense becomes reactive. Ground operations slow down. Missiles lose precision. Command structures weaken. And the entire battlefield shifts toward whoever adapts faster. Part 27, back to human war, because in the end day, war doesn't stop when technology fails. It just becomes more human, more uncertain, more dangerous, and a lot less predictable, just like it used to be. Before we could see